Full Stack Expert Bootcamp that is going to be launching on July 22nd in 3 days. It's going to be a really, really exciting time. We're going to be talking all about JavaScript, Node.js, everything that you could imagine. I am here to answer any questions that y'all might have. If you want to just drop them in the chat, I am definitely down to answer any questions y'all have about full stack engineering, maybe even full stack data engineering, because I know full stack data engineering is one of those things that is going to be so hot soon. It's going to be so hot. And so, but the full stack bootcamp should be really, really exciting. It's going to be me and Dan Bowden are going to be the two instructors for this bootcamp. We're going to be covering all sorts of stuff from basic JavaScript all the way to deploying your own production scalable web app in the course of 6 weeks. This should be a really great time. You can get 30% off the bootcamp right now if you use the code LASTMINUTE30 at checkout. It should be a really, really fantastic time. But yeah, I'm here to answer any questions that y'all might have. Just drop them in the comments, and I am ready for y'all to answer any questions y'all have about whatever. I'll answer anything about data engineering as well. So I'm here for about probably about 90 minutes, and then I got to get going. But it should be a really great time. I know that full stack engineering changed my life. It's always been one of those things that's been on the side for me a little bit, like because I've been a data engineer for most of my career, and but I've always been doing side projects and side hustles and all that stuff, right? This is a great question by Logan here. Can we not let me like show that one? Can I like put this in full screen? Okay, well, Logan is saying, hey, do you have any advice on choosing project ideas? You really want to choose a project that you're really passionate about. That's going to be the number one advice I have. For me, the projects I worked on are, you can check them out if you want. There's a website called Halo Gods, HALOGODS.com. That one is really awesome. I was obsessed with Halo for a long time, and I think that could be a really awesome. What's going on here? One second. I want to fix the chat here. Oh, that's why. Okay, I can do it this way. There we go. Here we go. Will there be a second version of Full Stack Bootcamp next year? Yeah, most likely. Most likely there will be. I mean, we're trying to get as many people taught as we can. So it really depends on if Dan really likes doing it, and if Dan thinks it's worth it, then probably. But like, I can't completely guarantee that. So definitely that's something that I would want to say. Let's say here. Is 6 weeks enough time to go from zero knowledge to job ready in React and React plus Vercel? That's a great question. Probably not. I think that this is going to be the Kickstarter. We are not offering any job guarantees from this, but like we definitely want you to be able to be ready and have a good portfolio piece. That's something that I think you'll be ready for. We're going to be covering everything from JavaScript all the way up to Next.js, React, Vercel, all of that stuff. Like, would you be job ready? It really depends on like where you're at. If you're at zero, if you've never coded in JavaScript at all ever, probably not. But if you have some level of knowledge there, you would this is probably enough time to get you ready to interview for jobs. Yeah. So I think that would be the big thing, right? And see here, this thing. I thought you would teach Spring Boot instead of Next.js since you already worked with it at Netflix. Yeah, but I've worked with Next.js way more. Next.js Data Expert, Full Stack Expert, all those websites are all built on top of Next.js. And Next.js is kind of the future in some regards, right? I mean, I have been doing Next.js for 4 years. I did Spring Boot at Netflix for 2 years. So, and there are more jobs in Next.js than there are in Spring Boot. For sure, 100%. Obviously, Spring Boot is what is used in a lot of the big tech companies, but you can definitely do a lot of great, powerful stuff with Next.js. My Next.js app has made me over $1 million, so definitely know that it is one of those things that you can do really, really good stuff, right? Let's say here, realistically, how long does it take to go from beginner to job ready in data engineering? A year. 1 year is going to be probably what I would say. It really depends though. I hate these questions a little bit because like some people can dedicate 1 hour a week to learning. Some people can dedicate 40, right? So that is something that I think is, it's hard to answer this question in any kind of realistic way because it really depends on how many hours you're willing to put in. If you're willing to, answer a little bit more about like how many hours you're actually able to put in every week, then I can probably give you a much clearer answer here. I say a year because that's like if you're putting in 10 to 20 hours a week, you can definitely get into a good data engineering role in a year. That's definitely possible. Okay. Here, what? Share some insights to learn deep about API. Well, API is REST, right? It's mostly REST, and REST is it has a couple verbs, right? You have get, put, post, delete options. Those are the API verbs that you need to learn. Get means like get the data or read. Post means like create a post, right? Or write. Put's the weird one. I don't know why it's called put, but put is mostly meant for updates. Right. And then you have delete, which is delete the data, obviously. And then the options is to figure out like what the API can even do. Right. This is a great question. Can a person be both software engineer and data engineer? Yes. 100%. 100%. Yeah. So this is 100% correct. You can definitely be both. I have been both in my career. I actually find that the most powerful data engineers are also software engineers, 100%. That is totally what it is, right? Let's see here. Is the course on fullstackexpert.io? Yes. Do we get lifetime access or is it limited access to the course ends? So it's not till the course ends. It's at least a year. I actually need to iron out that detail. I actually need to talk with Dan about that. I want to lean into lifetime because of the fact that this is the first run. This is kind of a beta cohort. So but I can get you that detail here in a bit. Like if you can message me on LinkedIn, I can definitely get you more information there. Can you be a SWE and MLE at the same time? You have to be. You have to be. Like, you can't be a machine learning engineer and not be a software engineer. That's like ridiculous. It's like a requirement, right? Like if you like this is like you definitely have to have both, right? Are you going to show us a full stack data app from prototype to production? We're definitely going to be working a lot with Next.js and building out full stack web apps. And like we're going to be working with Kafka and queues and listening and PubSub and all that kind of stuff as well. So definitely that is something to be thinking about, like if you're interested in doing stuff like that. Here's one. Why is the barrier to entry for data science so high? I hear many of the positions require master's degrees and many of those people still struggle because it's complicated. Data science is inherently complicated. It's a very complicated thing, right? It's not that why is the barrier to entry so high? You should be asking why is data science so complicated? And there's your answer, right? Is the amount of math and statistics knowledge that you need to know to be a good data scientist is very high. It's very high. And like you can complain about the job requirements all you want, but like really what you should be complaining about is data science. And that's just how it is, right? Who writes more code, DE engineers or ML engineers? I mean, I feel like DEs write just a ton of ridiculous SQL code that is just like, if we're talking like lines of code, I feel like DEs probably write a little bit more. But I think that MLEs probably spend more time in the code because they have to worry about other things, right? They have to worry about latency and performance and deployment a lot more than data engineers need to know. Because like they're working with like real-time inference, whereas most data engineers work with like daily batch pipelines, right? So they don't really have to be as deep into the code and worry about performance as much, right? So like just letting everyone know, we're going to be launching a full stack engineering bootcamp on July 22nd, literally in 3 days. It's kind of last minute. It's a 6-week program. It's going to be taught by me and Dan Bowden. Dan Bowden is a staff software engineer at Peloton with over 10 years of full stack engineering experience. He's a really, really great guy. I know he's going to knock it out of the park. And I'm going to be there. I'm going to be supporting. I'm going to be showing up, right? So it's going to be great. Oh, let's see another one here. Do you ever deal with ingesting lots of data from third-party APIs? Yes. And you should always put data quality checks every time that you're ingesting data from third-party APIs because the third-party API, there's no guarantee on the data quality and third-party APIs can kind of suck sometimes. So like definitely like you should have a lot of data quality checks whenever you are ingesting data from third-party APIs because you have no control over that API at all, right? So that's a big thing to think about, right? Would you comment on path from database administrator to data engineer? Is there much difference from data analyst also? Database administrator, like if you know SQL, you just need to learn Python. Just learn Python and then you'll be able to get into the data engineer role. Python and Spark, and then you'll be able to do it for sure. Okay. would you recommend people to first obtain a data analyst role and transition to DE, or go straight into data engineering? Like, it's not like I can't answer this question like uniformly, or like with like, because you can't answer this question uniformly because of the fact that like it really depends on who you are as a person. Like if you have a computer science degree, if you have software engineering fundamentals, go to data engineering directly. Just do it. Just apply and you'll find a role. But if you don't, like, it's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. And that is going to be a big thing to think about, right? Also, just letting everyone know, I'm trying to have this Q&A be a little bit shifted. I'm not going to be answering quite as many data engineering questions here. I want to be answering a little bit more about full stack engineering. And I want to talk a little bit more about like my full stack experience. So for me, I got into full stack engineering back in 2015 with my friend Wesley, and we built a Pokedex, like a fully functioning Pokedex. It was great. It was really fun. It really lit my eyes up, and I was like, well, this is awesome. And I've built a bunch of little side projects here and there, like a Magic the Gathering app, a freaking Halo stats app, all sorts of really cool little apps that I've built over the years that have really made me feel very powerful, even though like I haven't really done full stack engineering like on the job very much, except for at Netflix. Netflix is the one, Netflix and a little bit at Airbnb. But like that's one of the things that happened, is building up that skill set allowed me to be very powerful. I honestly believe that like having this full stack experience and becoming both a data engineer and a software engineer at the same time, that is what allowed me to get to those higher levels of engineering, right? Because now I'm like, I understand the software side. I understand how the servers work. I understand how the UIs and logging works. I understand all of that. But I also understand like the data pipeline and the analytics and the stuff on that other side, right? So those are going to be the two things that are really awesome, right? So, okay, what? Here's a great question. How to make full stack engineering with AI, like using all coming new Claude? I don't know. So like, this is where we are going to be covering a bit on like how to use AI to become a more effective full stack engineer. Because for me, Data Expert, I've written like 90% of the code for Data Expert, right? And like I've done that while teaching boot camps, while making content, while making sales, all that other stuff. And we're definitely going to be talking about like how to prompt more effectively so that like you can get nice React components and nice like endpoints from Claude or from GPT-4 or whatever, and that will allow you to kind of supercharge your full stack development. Because obviously, like if you're not leveraging AI nowadays when you're doing your development, you're falling behind, right? Because like AI is just gonna immediately solve your problems, and it should be a lot of the times that's just like, why struggle and suffer when you can just have your problem solved immediately? You know, that's like going to be a much better way to go. So here's what is more difficult to transition from ML to full stack suite or full stack suite to ML? Like, I would say the latter, because ML requires more skills. Because ML you already have to have the fundamentals, right, of freaking software engineering to be a good machine learning engineer. You have to know all about that shit. And then like, so I would say definitely full stack suite of ML is going to be harder than the other way around. That's why ML engineer pays more, right? Because it's more difficult and requires more skills, right? Okay, here's one. Should you take CS courses if you have business data analytics background to make full stack a possibility? You should take this course. Yeah, 100%. Like, it all depends on like what you're wanting to do, Jonathan. Like, I think that like that is definitely a possibility, and that could be a really powerful way to build an app and build a portfolio piece that's like live and exciting, right? I think that that's something that you could definitely work on and work through. It's one of those things that like it really depends on what your goals are, though. If your goals are to be more of an analyst or a data scientist, it's probably not worth it. If your goals are more to be like a machine learning engineer or a data engineer, that's going to be the case, right? Okay. So, Zach, what are students going to build in the bootcamp? Like, they're going to build their own portfolio project, like whatever full stack app they want to build, most likely with Next.js and Vercel. That's what we're going to be using to deploy the apps with. And then like they can build their own portfolio project in whatever way you want, right? Okay, so this is a great question. For the full stack bootcamp, what do you estimate the minimum time commitment for lectures plus assignments? So there's going to be every week, there's about 5 to 6 hours of lectures and labs every week for 6 weeks. So, and then homework's probably going to be about another 4 or 5. So like probably 10 to 15 hours total. If you are more of a noob, then more. If you are more experienced, then less. So that's going to be kind of like the ground to be thinking about, right? Okay. Let's see here. Have you tried to get into ML, Zach? I have done ML at Netflix and at Airbnb. At Netflix, I worked on detecting threats with machine learning, and then at Airbnb, I worked on smart pricing. So obviously, that was in collaboration, and I wasn't the core owner of that, but I learned a lot about feature engineering and different like pricing algorithms and supply and demand and all that stuff. Like, for sure. I mean, I think if so, what are some languages you think are crucial to understand and know? Python. It's like, duh, right? So this is a great one. The bootcamp would require prerequisites. You should know HTML, I guess, and a little bit of HTML and CSS. Like, you got to know some basics, right? That's going to be the main thing, right? All right. From the full stack path in Big Tech, what are the most common day-to-day use cases that they use Apache Kafka? They're going to use Apache Kafka for logging. Logging is going to be the most common use case, like where they dump any events to Kafka. That's going to be the most common use case for full stack. But you also have things like notifications and kind of any kind of real-time comms are going to be the big ones that you're going to kind of see, right? Okay, this is a great question. When bringing JSON data in from API endpoints to Kafka, where should cleaning take place before it goes to the data lake, or clean the raw data lake data? This is a great question. It really depends on what your goals are, right? This is ELT versus ETL, right? Which way do you want to go? I generally am a proponent of ELT, where you have you store the rawest data in the data lake, and then you do the cleaning after it's in the lake. Once it's like, resting, it's finally finished. So I would say that's going to be the big thing that you're going to want to do there, right? So let's find some other questions. Let's see here. Zach, what are students going to build in the bootcamp? Do you a demo of what's going to get built? This is a beta. This is the beta bootcamp, right? So we are running through this for the first time. That's going to be why that's why it's really affordable. That's why it's going to be like kind of open, and like we are open to feedback, right? So we do not have demos of stuff that's going to be built yet. Like, that's definitely something that we are working through, and that's going to be kind of the idea behind this bootcamp, right? Is how do we get more people to do that kind of stuff? And then after V1, we're going to have demos, right? We're going to have examples. We're going to have capstone projects that people have that we can show off, right? So that's going to be something that I would definitely recommend, right? Let's see here. Anyone? Okay, let's see here. I'm trying to find like another good question here that's like, because I'm trying to like have this be a little bit shifted, right, towards more like full stack. So I guess I'll just talk a little bit more about like my full stack experience. Like, so for me, like when I finished at Facebook, when I was in like 2018, and I was like done with data engineering because I was just like so sick of SQL, and I was like, I want to be a full stack engineer because I knew I could do it. And so I went to Netflix and I built up this stuff, right? And yeah, it was really great because like you can learn so much, like especially when you are like shifting from that batch world where everything's kind of delayed, and then you shift to this real-time world where all the data is available immediately. It's really powerful, right? Because then it allows you, this full stack bootcamp is like essentially the first step in like the kind of the journey of building a data product. So if you think about it this way, if you take the data engineering bootcamp and you take the full stack engineering bootcamp, in the future, I'm going to be building a data products bootcamp, which will be how you can take data engineering skills and full stack engineering skills, and then build what's called a closed loop machine learning system, where what that does is you have data that, and then the machine learning model is going to label that data with like whatever risk or whatever classifier it has. And then that can be shown to like a human to verify that that label is correct or not. And then that can be fed back into the system to make the ML more accurate. Right. And so that's a very common pattern that I've seen at Facebook, at Netflix, at Airbnb. Like, so at Facebook, they use that a lot for what's called SUMA, which is single user multiple accounts. So what they would do is they would show people, okay, here are two accounts. Are these two accounts the same person or not? And then they would put that in front of a human, and then the human can make the determination if those two accounts are the same person or not. And Facebook uses that to make it so that they don't double count people with their in their growth numbers. And then at Netflix, we did a similar thing where like we would show the security engineers like, here's an employee and all their activity. Is this suspicious or not? Is this something that you would want to dive deeper into? And then they would like swipe left or swipe right on that employee to like say like, okay, this is like good or not, right? And then so that gets fed back into the model so that the model's more aware of like what it's doing. And then at Airbnb, we did the same thing, another data product for hosts, because some hosts actually cancel on guests. And that's one of the worst experiences on Airbnb is when a host cancels on you, right? And that is, so they did the same thing, right? So here's a good one. What are the most important programming languages for full stack SWE? JavaScript, HTML, CSS. Well, HTML is technically not a programming language, but you need to know it, markup language, right? You need markup. And then, I mean, honestly, it depends after that. Like if you're trying to, like depends on the company that you're working for, but like Go is another really great language, Rust and Java. I'd say Java, Go, Rust, JavaScript, HTML, CSS. Those are going to be like the main ones. With where you want to start is definitely JavaScript, HTML, and CSS, right? And then once you go from there, you can kind of expand out into more of the high performance languages, because you have to know JavaScript, because JavaScript is what runs on the front end. And so you have to know JavaScript. And that's one of the reasons why we're doing end-to-end JavaScript. We're just doing JavaScript on the back end, on the front end, everywhere, is because then it's easier to teach because you don't have to like switch languages between the back end and the front end. And that's really awesome. And you can just do end-to-end JavaScript. And that allows you to focus on the actual full stack development and not like the differences in the languages. And that's one of the big kind of guiding lights for where that's going to go, right? Okay, here's one. Hey, Zach, here's one closer to the topic. What is full stack engineering meant to be and what is it not meant to be? Great question, because I think the word full stack sometimes means like you just do everything, right? You just do everything. And then, but like in this case, here's like full stack engineering in this boot camp in particular is about building a web application. So you build a front end that runs on the web, and then you use a back end that is deployed to Vercel, right? And that's going to be kind of the end. It's the front end and the back end of like an information system. That's going to be like the full stack piece of it. I think once you're in like data pipeline or cron jobs or like other things like that, you are a little bit outside the scope of full stack engineering. But at the same time, that's not necessarily true. Like those things can also fit very well in full stack engineering. So it's a field that is kind of like in the middle there, right? Where you can think about like product analytics, A/B testing, experimentation. Even that stuff is kind of full stack engineering, right? Because if you need to A/B test your landing page, then and understanding what's going on, right? Here's a good one. Is learning Linux required for software engineering? I mean, probably. I would just get a Mac. Learn Unix, right? Unix on Mac is very, 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 very similar to Linux to the Linux operating system. So if you can learn Bash and Zish on Mac, then like you essentially get Linux for free. And that's what I did. That's like how I got good at Linux, was I just bought a Mac. And then if you buy a Mac and get better at terminal, perfect, right? Okay, here's a good one. Which one is more difficult in your opinion, front end or back end? Front end. Front end's more difficult because you have to think about the user. You have to think about like what the user expects. You have to think about like what like I hate CSS. I just don't like CSS. Dan is going to be teaching all the CSS. We're going to be using Tailwind. I don't know if you've heard of Tailwind CSS. That's what we're going to be using for the boot camp. I think personally, I think front end's more difficult. I know that that's probably a controversial take. I bet everyone who is watching this right now is like, "What the hell, Zach just said front end." Back end is most people say back end's more tricky because of the fact that it requires a little bit more optimization. I think back end's more tricky in terms of like getting the right optimizations and the right like hard software engineering skills. I think that that's definitely the case. But like if you think about it from like actually doing the best possible job. So I think like the first 80% back end is harder, but the last 20% front end is harder. So that's going to be the case, right? What's the project that job-seeking full stack devs should make in today's time? A project that you're interested in. like, I mean, sometimes I don't understand people where it's like, you should be doing a project that lights your eyes up, right? For me, I did a full stack project back in 2014 where I built a Magic the Gathering app. And that's what I showed to Facebook in 2016. And that's how I got the job. And it was a data engineering job. And they were just like, wow, this guy is very technical. He knows how to build apps. He knows how to build all this stuff. And so like, it really just like, the projects that you should be working on are the projects that you are very interested in and the projects that you like a lot, right? So that's going to be the main thing. It's not like, if you're looking for like, okay, if you build this exact project, you will definitely get in at Facebook. Guess what? That doesn't exist. That does not exist. You need to be working on stuff that you are interested in, not things that Zach, the influencer, tells you to work on. Quit trying to take orders from people. Like, actually, like, think about what you're interested in and build a project around that. And that will be enough, right? As long as there's some complexity there, as long as you're not like, I'm very passionate about building to-do lists. Because if that's the case, then freaking don't do it, right? Don't do it. But like you want to be, your project needs to have some level of complexity to it. Like, hopefully your project has authentication. People can log in. Hopefully your project has like a database. It has a way to read and write. It's a CRUD app, create, read, update, delete, CRUD, right? It should be able to do that. Maybe you do other things like load balancing. Like, you have like the kind of the back end that makes it like super scalable, even though it doesn't need it. It's kind of a little bit over engineered, but it's good to like kind of set those things up just to like be like, okay, I know how to do this in case like things do get better, right? Okay, this is a great question. I've heard that SQL is also important for full stack suite, so it's great if you know MLDE and want to also do full stack. Yeah, I mean, I think that SQL is going to be super important. It's not quite as important for full stack as it is for data engineering. And the main reason for that is that like there's a lot of wrappers for full stack, right? You have like Mongoose and Massive and Sequelize, and I don't know, there's like the number of freaking ORMs that exist, Hibernate, and freaking, I don't know, there's like a freaking million other ORMs that are freaking wild, right? So I think that that's going to be the case. That is kind of how it works, right? So everyone just remember that like we're going to be launching this full stack bootcamp on July 22nd in 3 days. It's going to be really awesome. It's a 6-week program. You can expect to spend about 10 hours a week on it, and you'll be able to get really good. And that's going to be really, really powerful, right? Here's a good one. Will the front end bootcamp, it's not a front end bootcamp, it's a full stack bootcamp, but will the full stack bootcamp cover any auth single sign-on? It's not going to cover SSL, but it will cover auth. We're going to be covering auth for sure, 100%. Auth is one of the most important parts for full stack development, because full stack engineers need to understand auth and like how it can be broken and how people can like spoof cookies and how people can like do like, I don't know if you've heard of CSRF attacks and all these other kind of like different ways that you can kind of attack an application. And so that you need to be building your applications that are like kind of like security aware and follow the best security practices so you don't get freaking hacked, right? Is full stack market too saturated? No, it's not. There's actually tons of jobs in full stack, right? There's tons and tons and tons of jobs in full stack. So like definitely and like another thing to think about here is that like full stack is what enables you to be an entrepreneur as well, right? Because like for me, I built my own platform as an entrepreneur, and Data Expert is built because I'm good at full stack engineering. And so like you can definitely find value in all of it, right? And it all depends on like what your goals are. But like understanding that full stack engineering unlocks a whole nother layer to what you could possibly do, even more than data engineering. I feel like data engineering actually does not do that quite as much, right? So let's go. And this is a great one. I have about 5 years of experience as a full stack dev. I think I'm relatively good, but I don't know how to further my career without going the management path. How can I make myself more valuable as a developer? A couple things to think about here. One is get better at product analytics. Can you understand A/B testing? Can you understand like you kind of like put your data scientist, product manager hat on and understand like, okay, like what features should I build? What features are the most valuable? And how can I measure that? Right? How can I measure that with A/B testing and experimentation? And how can I know that like what I'm building is actually providing business value? Most full stack developers do not do that. Most full stack developers just like they take orders and then they build, right? And that's it, right? Okay, here's a good one. Can you share best practices and things to consider when building a data model for a front end application? So full stack applications here are going to need you're going to lean very heavily into third normal form So if you Google 3NF, just those 3 letters or those 3 characters, you can find third normal form, and you'll be able to find like a lot of really powerful things there. You want to be modeling your stuff like OLTP, online transaction processing, not OLAP, OLAP. OLAP is very common in data engineering, but you want to use OLTP for full stack engineering because it's going to be more performant and it has better quality and better guarantees. This is a great question. Are the salary the same for both full stack and DE? They're similar. They're going to be similar. At Facebook, I mean, in big tech, full stack engineers make more. Full stack engineers make about 20% more than data engineers in big tech. So that's going to be another very common thing to think about. Like, the roles are going to be similar, right? Because they're just technical roles, right? So, will this have Redis? I don't think so. I don't think this will have Redis. Like maybe I need to get Dan on this call. Dan is a lot more familiar with the curricula than I am. Let's see here. Okay, this person's asked us a bunch of questions. What is your favorite cloud provider and why? AWS. AWS, because they're not Azure and they don't cause stupid blue screens of death because someone pushed a stupid freaking update. CrowdStrike doesn't push a stupid update, and then Azure goes down and everything is terrible, right? That's why, right? Definitely. I'm glad I could mention that in this live today. Okay, here's a good question. Will the full stack bootcamp cover how to use React plus Vercel frontend and connect to Postgres database? Yes, all of that, 100%, all of that. It's gonna we're gonna be using Supabase. Supabase is a wrapper around Postgres that makes it easier to manage. But yeah, 100%. This is exactly what's going to be covered. So I highly recommend checking it out. Fullstackexpert.io, and you just use the code lastminute30. And if you use that at checkout, you can get the whole bootcamp for about $1,000. It should be a really great time. Let's see here. What are typical data engineering hurdles you see come up consistently? A couple things. One is around efficiency. This pipeline is using too much compute. We need to optimize it. That's a common one. You have another one around data quality. This pipeline is producing garbage data, and we need better guarantees. Another one is around value. This pipeline is not producing any business value, so we might want to delete it, or we need to update it so that it can produce more business value because it was created without people thinking about business value. I think that's a big thing that data engineers kind of mess a bunch, right? So let's see here. I don't know. I think those are going to be the main ones. So here. Do you have more in-depth curricula apart from what's posted on fullstackexpert.io? I do. I've posted about it before. I've definitely posted about it before. So like, I would recommend like maybe looking at my old LinkedIn posts or look at Dan Bowden's stuff. He definitely has more stuff there, Sumit. Or just message me on LinkedIn, Sumit, and like I can get you more information at the end, after this live's over, right? Yeah, Craig's like, I use Vercel plus Supabase before. Good combo. Thanks for putting this bootcamp together. For sure, Craig. I'm glad to hear that you use that stuff. I know it's amazing. That's what Data Expert uses. Data Expert uses Vercel plus Supabase, and it's freaking really good. It's really, really, really good. I've found it to be one of the most powerful combos that you can use, and like great guarantees, great data management, great backups, all of that stuff, right? Okay, let's see here. What's the typical career trajectory for someone working in full stack and someone in DE in a corporate setting? Well, like one's going to be more of a software engineer and one's going to be more of a data engineer, right? And those are going to be the kind of the paths that you can go. Data engineers are probably going to be more like leaning more into like the analytics kind of space where they're going to be trying to measure and understand like the impact of features, whereas the full stack engineer is going to be building those features and understanding like where the highest value is and what features need to be built next or what optimizations need to happen next. And so obviously you can go into management. You can become a higher level technical engineer, like a staff or senior staff, like kind of technical director. That can be another kind of path. Both of these careers have those. That was my path as a data engineer, and I could have taken that path as a software engineer as well, because like I'm pretty good at full stack development, and so I think that that's going to be the case, right? Okay, this is a good one. I'm asking these questions for my wife. She intends to build an API to store that in database, create a REST API, which is then accessed via React front end. Yeah, we're going to be doing exactly that in the bootcamp. That is, you nailed it. That's going to be like we're going to be building APIs, REST APIs, React front ends. All of that is going to be very much covered, and we're actually going to start from the basics, right? So that's going to be the best part, right? Okay, let's see here. And like I think that some other things to be thinking about here, like for full stack, that I think is really powerful that data engineering doesn't really have is full stack engineering has like this ability to really like make your product shine, because like you can just give someone a link and then you're like, hey, check this out. And then people are like, damn, that's awesome. Right. Because like as a data engineer, usually what you do is you give someone a table and you're like, run a query. And then like the only people who can really like get wowed by the data is like analysts. Right. But if you build a full stack app and then you give someone a link, the number of people who can actually appreciate it is very high. Right. And that's where like in full stack engineering, especially like if you include like I'm gonna try to say here. So you have full stack engineering. If you look at things like D3 JS, it's a great visualization library that you can use to like visualize data and build a nice data product that can be really powerful, right? That's something that is really good. Oh, this is a good one. How is the work-life balance, stress levels of being a full stack developer? I mean, it's about the same as a data engineer. I think in some ways it can be better. I think it can be better because full stack engineers care about quality more than data engineers. I think that there's a lot more garbage pipelines than there are garbage like full stack apps. And the main reason for that is because a full stack app, if it's garbage, it becomes unusable. Whereas like a garbage pipeline isn't unusable. It's just a pain in the ass, right? And it's like can be kind of frustrating. But like on the flip side, where full stack engineering is more stressful, is the on-call rotation can be more stressful because like when things break, like the app is down and business is like freaking stopped, right? And so if business is stopped when you're doing a full stack app, that is freaking scary, right? But with a data pipeline, it's like if the pipeline breaks, okay, the data is delayed and the analyst is a little bit annoyed, but like that's it, right? So it's not as like the weight of breakages in full stack are heavier, but that's why they index on quality more. So it's like overall, I think it's about the same, right? Here's one. Does full stack engineering include data engineering? No, it doesn't. Full stack engineering is all about building web applications that use online data, like whether that be in Postgres or MongoDB or Cassandra or something like that. It's going to be using mostly like online transactional stores, whereas data engineers almost always use offline stores and data lakes like Iceberg and Spark and stuff like that. So like the tech stacks are going to be pretty different. There is overlap here though. I would say that there's about a 30 or 40% overlap, like in areas like CI/CD, Git, unit testing, integration testing, kind of all that stuff is like kind of very much overlapped, right? Let's see here. Oh, this is a great one. What tips do you have for fast prototyping? There's a website called Ship Fast here. I'll put it in the freaking comments here. You might not be able to see it, but like I just put it up. I'll put it up here. So if you go to Ship Fast, that's a great place to build fast prototypes. It costs like $200, but like it's really amazing. Like you can have like a fully fledged functioning full stack application in like 30 minutes, and then you just have to know the Next.js to like add your features and add your stuff. But it can be a very like the bundle that you get from Ship Fast is really, really powerful. Mark Liu has done some really great work there. How much of CI/CD is covered in the bootcamp? Yeah, there's going to be at least one week of CI/CD covered. That's going to probably be it's like it's a big part of it. Like we talk about GitHub Actions, unit testing, integration testing, all that stuff, right? Curious what the support post the 6 weeks will be while my wife searches for a job. Like, I mean, we're not really doing job placement here. This is mostly around like building a portfolio and teaching people full stack development. We like in the future we will offer something like that. I definitely think that will be the case. This is V1, by the way. Like this is the very first like beta cohort that like we are working with. So just recognize that, and that like we are trying to understand this space and get better at it. And so you are taking a risk on us here a little bit, but like that's why it's cheaper. That's why it's a lot cheaper. That's why it's like half the cost of my data engineering bootcamp. Okay. What's your opinion about a job description mentioning tasks which require you to be a full stack data engineer for building a data platform for internal users? Is that a good combination? Yes. If you are, that's like, that job title is more like software engineer, data than it is data engineer. So that was my title at Netflix, right? That is definitely something that I think is a very good role to have, right? I mean, that's where, I was making $500K at Netflix doing exactly this, right? Being like a full stack data engineer where like I managed pipelines that built a graph database. and then we had a graph database, and then we had a Spring Boot API that queried that graph. And then that handed the data to the security engineers, so then they could understand like what the risks Netflix was looking at in terms of like the cloud infrastructure and in terms of all that stuff. So like 100%, I think it's a great combination. Like if you could be a software engineer and a data engineer at the same time, you are going to be completely bulletproof to LLM. You will always have a job. That's just another thing to think about when you're kind of like going through all this stuff. That's a very powerful way to go, right? All right, how easy is it to switch from DE to full stack and vice versa? I've done that switch. I've done that switch a bunch. So like in my career, let's go over my career real quick, right? So like I started my career as a data analyst, then I switched to data engineer, then I switched to full stack engineer, then I switched to data engineer, then I switched to full stack engineer, and then I switched to data engineer again. Right, that's my entire career. That's all my hops. Every hop that I had since 2014. I have always changed. Every time I change roles, I also change titles because I get bored of data engineering, and then I go to software engineering, and then I'm like, okay, I want to go back to data engineering, back to software engineering, kind of like bouncing between the two. So like, yeah, that's going to be a big thing. Are the full stack interviews harder than ML DE interviews? You can't put ML and DE in the same category. You can't do that. Like, so full stack interviews, and I don't know what harder means here. Harder is a hard thing to it depends on like what your skills are, right? So like if you're bad at SQL, the full stack interviews are going to be easier. But if you're good at SQL, then the DE interviews are going to be easier and the full stack interviews are going to be harder. It really depends on what your skill set is. Okay, what time are the full stack bootcamp lectures? They're from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern time, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern. So like, what's that, like 4 to 6 Pacific? Is going to be the times, and that will be the lecture lab, right? That'll be both of them. That's the way to think about it. What's the average salary of a full stack developer in the US? I think like 120,000, 130,000, something like that. Okay, here's a good one. What are the best and most common uses for NoSQL when it adds really value that relational databases can't? At scale, at very large scale, is when you're going to really kind of notice that Mongo and Cassandra are going to kind of outperform, because even at large scale, you can still use SQL, but like you have to do this thing called sharding. So like at Facebook, right? They don't use Mongo or Cassandra like at all. They mostly just use freaking MySQL. MySQL is what runs the entire application. But like it's not like one MySQL database with like a billion freaking users in it, right? They actually shard it, and I think they have like 1 million shards or something like that, or like there's like 500,000 or 1 million like little MySQL databases that all have a small percent of the users, right? Okay, let's see here. Sorry if I missed this. How much will the full stack bootcamp cost? It's $1,050. If you use this coupon code right here, last minute 30, you can get in for $1,050. Right? It'll be a great time. I promise. Like it's going to be very intimate. I think we have like 18 or 19 people, and understand that like you're going to be able to have a Q&A with me and Dan every week, and that's going to be something where like we're intentionally only taking like 30. We'll have 30 students at the most, and so you're going to have a lot of access to me, access to Dan. We're going to be able to do that stuff, right? Let's see here. Okay, for people in Europe, the time zone is way off. Is there a way to watch the lectures later, and will you be losing a lot by not attending live? It depends on who you are. Some people need those live lectures to actually do it. I also, in my previous boot camps, my data expert boot camps, there are people who will just watch it later. They'll watch it later and they'll watch it recorded, and they're able to stay focused and they can do it. Like it really depends on who you are as a person and how accountable you can hold yourself. If you can hold yourself accountable, then like you aren't going to lose very much. The only thing that you really lose is like the accountability aspect of it. But like I've had many people in Germany and the UK be very successful in my data engineering boot camps, where like, and my data engineering boot camps, the timing was almost exactly the same. It was 2 hours later. Instead of 7 to 9, it was 9 to 11 Eastern. So here's one. What's easier, data engineer or full stack? Easier to learn? I don't like this question. I honestly don't like this question, mostly because like this is asking like what's the easiest path in life, right? And I don't know if you know, but life is not meant to be easy. Life is meant to actually be difficult, and you should not be seeking things out. Like you should not be seeking what is the easiest path, right? Because that's like if you're seeking the easiest path, that is the quickest path to a hard life. With that being said, I would say that full stack engineering is probably a little bit easier to get into. The main reason for that is because there's a lot more full stack roles and there's a lot more junior full stack roles, right? You can get in as a junior a lot easier in full stack than you can in data engineering, mainly because companies need a lot more full stack engineers than they need data engineers. So for every 10 full stack engineers a company has, they need one data engineer. So if it's 10 to 1, right, the odds that you can get a junior role is actually a lot higher, right? Okay. Let's see here. Is data scientist, data analyst bulletproof to LLMs? Definitely not. Who is more susceptible to LLM? Data engineer, data analyst, data scientist? I hate that question. I'm done answering it. This is a good one. Do you think it's worth using Python for the backend as a full stack suite? It can be. I mean, Python is a great choice. I mean, a lot of people use Fast API is pretty good. Django, Fast API, all that stuff is all pretty solid. You could definitely try those out. I think that you can do some good stuff there, right? Okay. Okay. I would like to check out the 1 trillion row challenge. Which cloud provider would you suggest? AWS. I always suggest AWS. Why companies ask for DS and algo when it's never used in real work of DE? It is used. So that's where like you're wrong, right? If you don't understand runtime complexity, you're not a good data engineer. If you don't understand space complexity, you're not a good data engineer because you don't understand OOM, you don't understand skew, you don't understand a lot of other things that come with runtime and space complexity. So like, sure, you're not solving leak code problems on the job, but the underlying fundamentals behind leak code, in particular, big O notation, the space-time trade-off, that's another big one, right? And understanding the different algorithms that you can use, like binary search, breadth first search, depth first search, freaking all those different like kind of options. Like if you can know those, like you're just gonna be a better engineer overall, right? Okay, I heard you touch on this before, but could you repeat it in a little more detail? What is the tech stack that will be used in the bootcamp? So it's going to be mostly Next.js. Next.js is going to be the biggest one. That's going to be the most important one. And then you have Supabase or Postgres. Postgres is the most popular and awesome SQL database. That's another powerful piece of this. We're also going to be covering just the fundamentals, like vanilla JavaScript, HTML, CSS, kind of stuff like that. It's really good. Okay. Hello, how do you prevent creating too many models while implementing REST API? You need to really think about your third normal form. You need to be thinking about like, what data sets do we need? What data sets are we using? Like, and there's this problem is not related to REST at all, right? It's actually related to the data layer. It's related to like what data you're trying to create and what are the linkages between those data sets and like how can you implement those things in such a way that is good, right? Okay, let's go with this one. How much sense does it make to take a 6 to 8 month gap to level up from data analyst to full on cloud DE? Why take a gap? Why can't you just do it while you're working? Like, I think that why can't you just spend your weekends and just not have a gap? Like, I think that would be my question to you is that like you can do both. You don't have to take a gap there. Like, so then you have Huddy or Iceberg. Just Iceberg. Huddy sucks. Questions only boot camp. What? Okay. Here's a good one. What do you think are going to be the next big changes to full stack? I think full stack is going to be very like full stack engineering is going to get easier, right? Because of LLM and you can create things a lot faster. So I think that full stack engineers are going to need to be more data focused. I think that they're going to kind of merge. I think that like full stack engineering and data engineering are going to merge in some regard where like full stack engineers are going to be more productive because of LLM. And that's going to require them to have, they're going to have more time on their hands to do other things. And then they can own other pieces of the stack. And so that's where they can definitely do other things that I think you could definitely check out. So like, I think that's going to be the big thing. I think full stack engineering is one of those like central pieces of the puzzle where like you can't really get rid of them because they have so much like power in like building the UI and managing the server and like just those really critical components of the business. And I think that those things are like why LLM is going to be, they'll be hard pressed to get rid of that role, right? So let's see here. Yeah, Fabio says, hey, Zach, thanks for this Q&A. Yeah, no problem. I appreciate you, Fabio. Like I appreciate Appreciate the love. Appreciate the gratitude. Gratitude is one of my favorite things. If you want to lean into gratitude, that's going to be a really powerful way to go. Let's see here. So anyways, everyone, like, I'm going to be doing a full stack bootcamp with Dan Bowden. It's going to be really great. If you use that coupon code lastminute30 by July 22nd, you can get it for $1,050. Should be a really great time. I'm really excited for where it's going to go. I think that it's going to be great. Okay. What resources do you recommend for learning data modeling? My bootcamp, dataexpert.io. You can get it. I actually have a subscription product now, by the way. You can actually get my product for $200. You can even get a little bit of a discount right now. I will put that on the screen real quick. So you can actually you can learn everything for $170. If you go to dataexpert.io/Zach15, you can, it's $170 a month. And then you can get in and learn all the data modeling stuff that you would ever want. Like there's like 30 hours of data modeling content that I have already filmed. So, and it's $170. It's not that expensive. You can cancel anytime. 100% check it out. All right, really want to go from systems engineering to software engineering. Would this bootcamp help with this transition? Yeah, I honestly think it would, because that's going to be great, right? Like, I think that you're going to be able to do really powerful things with this bootcamp. You'll be able to like especially like if you have systems engineering, you already know the coding and you're already doing that stuff, right? So that's going to be a really powerful thing to be thinking about, like, as you kind of go through this stuff. I highly recommend this. Dan Bowden is going to do a really great job here, and I'm really excited to be there in the boot camp and cheering y'all on and teaching y'all as well, and kind of showing you kind of the ropes behind like what I have been doing to kind of get better at. Govin saying, why is my question being skipped? Because it's not related to full stack engineering. Thanks. This is great. Mahan saying, thanks for doing this. We're looking into signing up a few engineers from our department for the class. Awesome, Mahan. That's so great. That's so great. I'm so excited for you to join. Like, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be so amazing, right? See here. Will your bootcamp recommend any TypeScript tool chain like TurboPack, Vite? We use Next.js and Webpack. Webpack is going to be the main tool chain stuff that we use for the bootcamp, because Next and Webpack just go together really nicely. All that other stuff, TurboPack, Vite, whatever, it doesn't really matter to me, because it's like obviously there's some compatibilities between that and Next.js as well, but like just learn Webpack. Like, you don't really need to learn anything else. Like, the other stuff doesn't really matter that much. Like, full stack looks pretty fun. I mean, it's gonna be a riot. It's one of those things where, like, I love full stack because it's one of those things that really comes to life and really like screams at you like, hey, check out this freaking awesome website. It's really fun, really exciting times. I think that's gonna be great. See here. Thanks for the answer. Learning opportunities at day job are few, and I get paid during the gap. Oh, if you get paid during the gap, then freaking just do it. But yeah, if you get paid during the gap, then just freaking do it. Just do it. Like 100%. Like, I love gaps. I took a gap year. I took a year off in 2020, right? Okay, let's see here. Let's see what's going on here. Okay. You have some insights about challenges, particularly DE related, in hosting a data platform on premise than hosting it on the cloud. Just host it on the cloud. Like, what are you doing? Like, I don't know. Like freaking, obviously it's going to be way more of a pain in the ass to host it on premise. Way more of a pain in the ass. Like, because you don't get all those guarantees. Like, you can set up a data platform in like 1 hour in the cloud. Right? If you're going to do it on premise, like, it's going to take like a month. I don't know. It's going to take a long time to like really set up like Hadoop and all that shit. Right? Here's a good one. Can you share your thoughts on the role of data architect? I think it's great. Data architect was very similar. My role at Airbnb was kind of in the middle. I was both a staff data engineer and a data architect. I was kind of both roles at the same time. So like, I found that to be a very exciting role. Data architect is essentially where like you really focus on data pipeline processes, and you understand like, how can we get our engineers to produce the highest quality data? And like, you're really focusing on how pipelines are being generated, and less about like what pipelines are being generated. So like, that's one piece of it. But then at the same time, like, data architects will, like me, for example, I was looking at pricing and availability pipelines, and I recognized that there was too many pipelines, and that like we could change the data model so that there could be fewer pipelines. And that was something that like I was able to delete like 100 pipelines because like I recognized that there was all this duplicate effort that was happening. And you, as a data architect, you can find these patterns and save the company millions of dollars. Because I saved Airbnb like $10 million doing that. It was freaking awesome. Like, Zach, what are your thoughts on DuckDB? I think it's a great analytical database. I think it's a good choice. I mean, I still like Postgres a lot, though. I think that Postgres is superior when it comes to like transactions and stuff like that. And DuckDB doesn't have that much of an edge on Postgres in terms of like analytics and OLAP. So like, it's like, I don't know, like it's great. I think that it is better for OLAP than Postgres is, but it's like not that much better that I want to switch, right? That's the part that I think is crazy, right? What if we combine full stack DE and AI engineering? Is that possible? What can we call that role? We can call that role technical God. That's what it is, right? You're just like, you just know all of it. You can just do everything. You're like, I can freaking build a computer from scratch with my bare hands and some sand and maybe a little bit of like silicon. And then you can go from like, that's the true full stack, right? Is you can take a rock, turn it into a computer, and then you can have that computer like log data from an app that you built. And then you can train an LLM from the app that you built, from the computer that you built with rocks. And if you can do all of that, right, you are a true full stack engineer. That is it, right? 100%. I get this question every day. What do you think about Microsoft Fabric? Microsoft freaking blue screened of death today. So that's what I think about it. Anyways, y'all, I'm still open to any questions. I'm here for about another 30 minutes. So I'm excited to do some stuff. He's like, that doesn't sound realistic. I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, if you're building computers from rocks, you're totally right. That doesn't sound realistic. But I mean, I think full stack DE and AI all freaking can come together. I've done full stack DE and AI, especially like if you're just talking about like calling AI APIs. It all depends on like what level of AI engineering you're trying to do. Are you doing like fine tuning? Like, are you actually like taking data and like putting it on top of an AI algorithm? Are you using RAG? Are you using fine tuning? Are you freaking like, or are you just calling OpenAI and like being like, here's my prompt, right? Because I do that in my boot camp. Like in the DE boot camp, I actually have like auto grading, right? There's grading that happens automatically with LLM, and so that's like kind of a mix of data. It's like data engineering homework that is automatically graded by a full stack app that is calling an AI API. So in that regard, I think that is all three of them, right? Okay, let's see here. What do you think is the scope of platforms that aim to build logical data lake and logical data warehouse? I mean, and like analytical, this is such a weird question. I don't know, man. Like, like for those about to rock, we salute you. Let's go. Let's go. Okay, best extract and load application, or should I say cheapest? Cheapest is not the best, bro. Sorry. Like that's like, I mean, I think that some people think that like, oh, it's the lowest cloud cost, but then it has like the highest maintenance. So it's like you just value your engineer's time at zero. So you're like, oh, I saved $6 on freaking, I saved $6 on my cloud costs, but it caused my engineers to spend 20 more hours troubleshooting, and like their time is worth zero. So I saved $6, right? But that's not actually how it works, right? Really, the cheapest application and the cheapest stuff is going to be, you have to look at cloud costs and engineering time and engineering maintenance. And you have to look at all three of those things together. And that's why this question is not, you can't answer it like uniformly, right? Again, it's one of those things that there is no best. Best is a stupid word. Just remember that in technology, best does not exist. There are some tools that are better at certain things and some tools that are better at other things, right? It's kind of like, Spark, for example, right? Imagine if you did all of like your real-time queries in Spark, right? It'd be terrible. It's slow and awful and a lot of latency and like not good. Whereas like Trino is going to destroy it. But then if you look at like very high volume, Spark destroys Trino, right? So it's like, it really depends on what your goals are. Right. And so that's why like freaking like best does not exist. Okay. I know you must got this question previously, but could you reiterate your thoughts on which roles in the data family have more scope growth withstanding AI in the next 10 years? comparing these things is not a good use of your time. It's not. I mean, I would say that like avoid data analytics. I think data analytics is the one that's a little bit like threatened, right? Because it's the problem with data analytics is that like a lot of those patterns are there's not that many patterns in data analytics. There's like probably like 5 or maybe 7. I had a freaking a viral Instagram reel about that, how like there really isn't that many patterns. And so like LLM can really pick up on that stuff. And I really think that that stuff is going to be a little bit nerve wracking over the next 5 years, where like you're going to be able to just kind of like build a dashboard. But like data analytics is still a little bit safe because like dashboard design and understanding the business space and like understanding what queries to even run, where like that stuff, like that kind of reasoning and creative thinking in terms of like translating business requirements into data sets and into insights, that stuff is where data analytics is pretty safe. But in terms of growth, be an MLE. Isn't that obvious? Machine learning is on fire right now, right? Machine learning is absolutely on fire. Machine learning engineers at OpenAI make $1 million a year, right? So, like, I don't know. That seems pretty good to me, right? Okay. Great question. Would AWS Spot instances make sense to tinker around with large data sets? If not, which AWS project would you recommend? It's probably fine. Spot instances is probably just as good as anything else. Like that's what I use. I mean, I use Glue, right? AWS Glue. Glue is another. I mean, with Glue, you can have a Spot instance as well, and that could be another great thing, right? You think you'll do an MLE bootcamp in the future? Yes, in September or October. We're going to be, I actually have Maria. I'm working with Maria. It's a mix of ML. It's going to be like ML and ML Ops, right? It's going to be those two together, ML Ops on Databricks. That's going to happen this year for sure. That's definitely going to happen. So like, get ready for that. We are still kind of figuring out what to do there, mainly because like, I don't want to stretch myself too thin, because one of my goals is to live a happy and healthy life and not just like vomit technical information on you guys, right? Because I know that like, I know you guys love it. I know you love being vomited on by me, but like, like the problem is that like, I have to live a happy life as well. So I'm trying to figure out how to like empower other creators. So then I'm a part of the boot camp. I'm not the lead educator, right? But I'm there to empower, make sales, have you guys feel more energized. But I'm not going to be like leading a lot of the stuff, right? Especially with ML, like I only know like maybe 30% of what would be necessary to teach in an ML bootcamp. Like data sets, data quality, ML ops, and freaking feature engineering. Those 4 I could do. But like right when you get into like train and test and validation and splits and algorithm choice and that kind of shit, like I'm like, I'm an idiot in that space. So that's one of the things to think about. Like when, like if you want to learn MLE from me, I'm going to need another instructor there to like really kind of take it across the finish line to like give you guys like an actual really good experience. You know what I mean? Okay. Do you have any inputs for someone who don't want to get into data science, but be strong within the DE space? Become a data architect. Great. You don't have to get into data science. I never really got into data science, and I made $600,000 a year at Airbnb. Whoa. Whoa. That like totally fell. Oh, well, I'll just hold it here now. That's fine. Anyways, like I definitely think that that's going to be the way to do it. This arm is bullshit. I need a new arm for sure. Okay, let's see here. But I don't see a long-term plan or roadmap. If I'm a CEO in a company, a lot of business skills are transferable compared to data technical skills. Yeah, like I mean, you're totally right. Focusing on the business and focusing on the soft skills. I actually think that like AI is also going to make product managers freaking more valuable, because like they're able to unblock themselves more, because product managers, like there's going to be a giant shift towards like who has the business context, because the business context and who understands the business and like how it works, that those are the people who are going to get paid, right? That's why CEOs are not scared. That's like for me, I actually find AI to be amazing, right? Because like, you know, in my third boot camp, right, I hired 20 people to grade homework. And then in my 4th boot camp, I hired 3. Because AI made it a lot easier, right? So it's great. Do you think that MLE salaries are going to change after the AI hype? Yeah, they're going to go to 0. They're going to go to 0, and then you're going to be poor, and then you're going to be kicked off the street, right? That's going to be the idea here, right? The mic can't handle all the info Zach is giving us. That's hilarious. I fucking love it, dude. I love it. Okay, here's a good one. What services on AWS would you recommend to learn for practical hands-on use? Glue, S3. Those are the big ones, I think. SQS. SQS is great for like queue processing, right? You don't have to use Kafka, right? SQS is pretty good. Kinesis. When I think about like all the ones I used in big tech, right? So you have Glue, you have freaking S3, you have SQS, you have like SNS, yeah, Kinesis. Those are the main ones I think that you would want to know, right? But like, anyways, y'all, like, definitely know this full stack bootcamp is going to be absolutely amazing. I'm really, really excited for it. I know that there's going to be a lot of value that is going to be provided here. I know that y'all are going to love it. Dan is a really, really, really good engineer. I know that he's going to provide a lot of value for y'all, and that's going to be something that you can't even really comprehend quite yet, right? Okay, this is great. I know this is pretty ambitious, but I want to learn full stack and then ML. I'm looking forward to your bootcamp, Zach. What tips can you give me in this long journey? Recognize that it's going to take 5 years, maybe more, right? A lot of people think that you can become a full stack machine learning data engineer in 6 months, right? Or at least that's what the boot camps tell you, right? But like the idea behind these boot camps, right, is the boot camp is not the end. The boot camp is the beginning. It's similar to like college, and this is something that I truly believe is that like people think that like once you graduate college, like you're done learning, and guess what? The people who believe that are losers. They're losers, right? Because really what you want to be thinking about with these boot camps and like these things is this gives you the fundamentals to then go and build your own self-study. That is going to be the case, right? And so you want to be continually working on the stuff after the boot camp as well, and just keep building and keep growing and keep grinding away and like doing your own self-study and trying to build things like that are challenging to build. Try to build things that like challenge you, right? Because it's like if you're not being challenged, you're not growing, right? And I guess that would be my main recommendation here on like the ways to go. Yeah. So Hong says, "Thank you so much, Zach." Yeah, for sure. I appreciate you. I appreciate all the love. I appreciate all the gratitude, right? Here's a good one. As I already mentioned, I have experience in data analytics. Should I focus on software engineering skills to be able to build big ideas like Spotify? 100%. Data analytics will be powerful for this, though, because one of the things that software engineers do wrong is they don't look at the data and they just start building code and they start building features, and people don't give a shit about them. And so as a data engineer or as a data analytics person, you are very aware of like the business value and how analytics is like connected to business value. And since you know that, that is something that you can definitely use, and like your data analytics experience will make you a better like technical executive or like whatever your goals are with like building stuff, right? So that can be another way to go. Another thing to think about here though is like maybe that's someone else. Like if you're starting a company, maybe like you're the analytics person who understands like the data and the business, and then you have like a CTO who knows how to build, and then you guys work together. That's something that I'm learning more and more, because like my business, I'm like the founder. I'm the only founder in my company, and I do all of it. And like it's a lot. It's a lot. I don't like recommend it in some regards, right? Here, 1 second, y'all. I need to get a charger. I'll be right back. Not fit. Wow, this doesn't fit. That's super annoying. There we go. No. There we go. That's plugged in now. I think that's plugged in. There we go. Okay, awesome. Now I can hear you guys. Oh, this is great. I love this question, by the way. This is something that we will be covering a bit in the boot camp as well. So we have a question on native development, right? What is going on? My freaking screen is so laggy right now. Okay, so what are your thoughts about native mobile application development? I think it's still really powerful. I think that like leveraging like try to say here, you need to leverage things like React Native, like so that you can do it in JavaScript, so you don't have to like have so much code. It depends on where you're working, right? Because like, you know, some companies, they really focus on like Kotlin and Swift, and they do that, right? Yeah. So, but like you can kind of do both, right? This is a good question here. I'll answer a couple data engineering questions here. So we have, can Kafka be used for ingesting data for a batch processing pipeline? Yeah, it can. Because like when you ingest data from Kafka, like you can have it, you can have offsets, right? You have offsets that are like the starting and ending offset for the queue. Is that not plugged in? Okay, there we go. Now we're good. We're actually like charging now. Oh, laggy. What's going on right now? Second, y'all. Is it gonna come back? No. No. I think it's gone. Da, 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 da. All right. Well, sorry, y'all. I think this is gonna work.